there's a sort of a family connection with one of my singers in Tenebrae, and Sir John, who is, and his wife and himself had a little boy about 2 years ago. And they were playing in the garden somewhere, and a friend of Sir John's, Brian Keeble, wrote a poem, just sort of on the spur of the moment. And at a later date, Sir John saw the poem, liked it, and had the idea of setting it to music, and I heard about it through my singer. I said, well, if it's going to be set, why don't we do it, sort of keep it in the family, if you like. And that's how the text has arisen.
I think it is a religious text, but I think it needed, for musical setting, it needed a kind of relief, I think, from the, it needed a sort of poetic refrain of some kind. And I thought the idea of the eternal feminine, which is present in Hail Maria, Hail Sophia, Sophia being the feminine part of the Godhead. And since the whole poem seemed to be about the feminine, I wanted to use that. And then at the climax I interpolate the Sanskrit word Atma, which literally means the self, or the self that is connected with the infinite. I didn't want it to be specifically Christian, specifically Hindu, specifically, I wanted it to sort of be universal. Nowadays music comes to me sort of almost spontaneously, and I think on seeing the text I heard the music. That I write so much music, it's very difficult to know. So when I came in today, I wondered what I was listening to, because for this building I've written a piece that lasts 8 hours. And ever since that time, it seems that music comes to me totally spontaneously. And I have so much in my head, I just wonder whether I've got time left to write it.
I think every time I've worked on a new piece, I always sort of have thoughts about what might be actually more effective. I mean, I have to sort of have an understanding, or try and have an understanding of what it is the composer wants. And if there's something that sort of sticks out, glaringly to me, then I'm usually brave enough to suggest that there might be sort of changes. And yes, we made a couple, but had they not worked, then we would have found another way to make it work. And it's not changing something that doesn't work, but just a change that might enhance the effect, to actually create more tension.
In this I changed, I wanted some bars with just the Tibetan or the Hindu gong beating alone. I mean, that's something I always think that rehearsals are time when I can change things. I think this whole business that Andrew was talking about really starts with my relationship with my editor, who knows me. She worked with me now for over 30 years, and she says, don't you think it would be better if it was so and so and so and so? And often I say yes, and then the conductor comes along and says, don't you think it would be better if it was arranged in this particular way? And I say yes, of course, because we deal with voices all the time. I don't, so it's good to have that. It would be very bad if I was closed. And I wouldn't change anything. I'm very happy to change things, but not with the structure. I think that the actual, in this particular piece, the sound of the Tibetan temple gong was not quite as I envisaged it, and it would be difficult in a live performance of it to get precisely the ictus of those repeated crotchets. Because the choir and the organ tend to drown out the sound of that gong, but it's the right sound. It's almost as if a kind of little Buddhist ceremony is going on behind this rather sort of awesome, rather churchy sound that's coming from the choir and coming from the organ. And it's difficult. You can do it in recording, but it's much more difficult to do this because the nature of Buddhist or Hindu ritual is much more intimate than that of, let us say, the Christian rituals, which tend to be grander, not as awesome as the Hindu or Buddhist rituals. But I think that presents, I mean, insofar as I want to write a music which is universal, which is a kind of perennial, that's not specifically Christian, that's not specifically Hindu, that's not specifically American Indian, let's say, whatever. By putting these elements together, what's very exciting about recording is that you can get the effect of let us say, a Buddhist ceremony or a Hindu ceremony with a gong stroke, and you can put that. It hasn't got to actually make a sound in the building that is louder than the choir and the organ, and that's very useful. But what happens in performance, we have to work it out.
The world premiere is in Salisbury Cathedral, which will be a fantastic setting, and by candlelight. So we're hoping that the mood is going to be absolutely right. And I've sort of chosen quite carefully pieces in the programme before this one, so that it really is set up, so that people are in the right frame of mind for listening and for performing, sort of just ready. Because it's quite I think when we perform it, I've got a feeling it's going to be quite exhausting, because the tension, even through the soft passages, is just sustained. And if the performers are doing it and you can carry the listener, keep the listener with you, then by the end of it, it's going to be. So it's important what goes before it to help create the right mood, the right atmosphere. We're slightly bigger for this recording session than we would normally be for a concert, and that is basically when you do a recording, you perform something several times over. And had we had our normal sort of team 17 or 18, then I think after the second or third attempt they might have been getting a bit worn out. So we've bolstered the things, but it's been so successful that I'll now see if we can work on having some extra singers for the world premiere, because it's amazing.